Alright, what's up everyone? This is Wakeman. I am coming at you today with a PDPL Season 2 team analysis. I received an invite to play in the Pokemon Draft Premier League. I'm still going on record saying it should have been PPDL, but anyway. Thank you to Dan, Ryan, and Otto for having me and inviting me. I appreciate it. Um, I am running this season under the Great Lakes Grimmsnarls because of my first draft pick, which you will see. But yes, so let's get into the format here. So it was a VGC style league, but it allows the full pool of available Pokemon. So that means Paradoxes, Ruins, Charizard, Cinderace, Greninja, um, Walking Wake, Iron Leaves are all legal. Decidueye, despite coming out very soon, will not be because it wasn't legal when the draft started. But other than that, everything that's available, Zoroark Hisui as well is available. So it was a 7 tier system, but it was points based. So, you're it's kind of a hybrid because you're used to seeing things like the GLDL where it's completely tier based. It's just like 4 or 5 tiers, and you just pick from the tiers with maybe a couple points based free slots. Or you see points based tier lists where it's like 20 different point values, and so this is kind of in between. I think that tiering separating Pokemon into 20 different tiers, I think it just gets way too like arbitrary. Like, how in the world do you determine what's 17 and what's 18? Like, you know, if you make a points-based tier list like that, respect, because you are more patient than I am. Anyway, so we got 460 total points for 10 to 12 mons. And I right away realized that is not a lot, and I'm probably going to shoot for 10. I did shoot for 10. I ended up with 11, but we'll explain how that happened. Um, so as you can see, tier 1 was 120 points. So that is more than a quarter of your budget. Um, so it's like you really got to commit, and you really want to, you really have to like feel, you really have to believe in that tier 1 pick because it costs you a lot. And so I saw that, and I looked at the stuff in tier 1 was broken. It's Annihilate, Chi-Yu, Chien-Pao, Iron Hands, etc. Stuff that should have been there. But I looked at that and I was like, I don't think I want to go that top heavy, so I decided to stay away from tier 1 completely. There was no requirement, any minimums or maximums for any tier. Um, so it was a snake draft like normal. I was 14th out of 16, so I felt pretty good about that. Being early would have been nice because it would have given me like a good like a wide variety of options. But my first pick I think was still very good, and so this is also the most snipe heavy draft I've ever been a part of by like a long shot. Um, it's just everyone in here is a really good drafter, and so you don't have the buffer of like people drafting meme teams or funny team or like just drafting whatever they want because it's fun, or people who are new and don't know how to draft very well or whatever. Like, you don't have that buffer, and so a lot of the same value, um, like Sandy Shot, no, Iron Moth. I was gunning for that, and then Otto took it the round I was gonna take it. And when he did that, I think Charles and I think someone else said, "Yeah, I was gonna take it before it got to you." So like, that's how crazy it was that like one mon was being targeted by 4 different coaches in the same round. Like, that is pretty insane. And so yeah, so I was hoping for Walking Wake. It's kind of sort of like similar name to me, right? Wakeman. People call me Wake, and so I thought it'd be funny. Plus, I thought the mon was really really good in tier 2, but I ended up with, in my opinion, the like one of the top 3. I think, other than maybe Walking Wake, I think this might have been the best. I think Walking Wake and Palafin could be higher than it, but it's Grimmsnarl. I personally voted for this thing to be tier 1, and I think it should have been still. But it was in tier 2. I got it for 90 points. We'll take it. This is the reason I'm running with the Great Lakes Grimmsnarls um, logo this season. Plus, I'm the aces in GLDL right now, and if I enter UDL or whatever, I'll probably be the aces there as well. So, just sticking with Grimmsnarls for this one. I mean, Grimmsnarl, there's nothing new here. Um, it's I was gonna say just as broken as last gen, but it's actually more broken. It got stuff like parting shot and terrain, misty terrain. So, and then also with the addition of like covert cloak as well, makes it really consistent. I just think this mod is incredible. The offensive output is very good. 120 attack with Dark Fairy Stab is pretty good. Offensive coverage and output. Plus, you have a lot of coverage, as you can see listed there, and Fake Out is a big one. And then, like, overall, I was really happy with this first pick because I kind of knew, like, literally after the first round. Like, I was 14th out of 16. First round happened, and I'm like, okay, this is going to be, like, I'm not going to be able to plan more than a couple picks out for this. So I think I ended up planning one pick out for the rest of the draft because of this. Um, but this didn't limit my options at all. Like I was able to snag this. It was good value, but it was also just like, I mean, anything can pair with this. Like it's so flexible in what it can support. And it does its own thing by like it can still kill stuff. So I was just super happy to take this first. I think it's going to be really really good for me. So next up is Noivern. This is like the Tailwind setters as a group were things I was looking at for maybe round 3 or 4, except in round 1, Talonflame and Kilowattrel both got taken, and then I think in round 2, before it got back to me, I'm pretty sure 1 or 2 others got taken. So I was like, okay, yikes, like I need to get Tailwind. And I thought tier 3, 60 points for Noivern was very good value. Frisk user number 2, I guess. But mostly, Frisk and then Telepathy 2. I don't think I have much use for that ability on this team, but yeah, I mean it's very pretty much exactly the same as last gen. It's fast Tailwind, good value, great consistency on lead with Frisk because it allows you to know where mental herbs or Scar, like to me when you're a Tailwind setter, the things you want to look out for is like Covert Cloak in case you're trying to like Fake Out plus Tailwind, Scarf so you can't get like Scarf Icy Wind into whatever. Granted, Covert Cloak is an option for that now. But like I think it's just really good that you can scout the items out. It can run Taunt too, so being able to scout out mental herbs is also really nice. Um, and then, yeah, I mean, again, damage output is fine. It has good stabs with Draco Meteor and Air Slashes, whatever. Base 97 is not the strongest thing, but it does get Boom Burst, and so like Terra Normal Boom Burst is a thing. I don't know how much of a thing it is, but it is certainly a thing. Um, so now I wanted something that was just primarily a thing to punch holes in teams. I wanted something with some damage output, and something that would benefit from Tailwind. So I went with Serial Edge in tier 2 for my third pick. This is a new mon in Gen 9. In case you don't know it, Flash Fire and Weak Armor are both very good abilities for it. It goes really well offensively with the first two. I can Boom Burst next to it if I want. It really really likes screens like a lot, and that's just great value. And I needed to grab a good fire type because at this point in the draft, a lot of fire types were also starting to go. But like as I was making this slide, I was like, what in the world is this thing's coverage? I mean, fire and ghost, but it gets good options for fire and ghost. Like Bitterblade, is like Drain Punch, but I think stronger. Or I think it's the same. I don't remember. Flare Blitz is just like if in case you need to hit calcs, there you go. Shadow Claw is good. I think it gets Phantom Force too, but I think you'd probably run Shadow Claw more. Shadow Sneak is great priority. And then like the coverage it gets is just like, why does it get this? Dragon Claw, Close Combat, X Scissor, Iron Head, Psycho Cut, Poison Jab, Night Slash. Like, why does it get all that? I have no idea. Um, and then the bulk up set has been seen a lot in VGC up until now. It also gets screens, in case. It does get the funny move, ally switch. But then quick guard, taunt, helping hand, will-o-wisp. Like those are all very useful utility moves that I felt like were important to get more of. So yeah, next pick, I went with Sandy Shocks, another tier 2. So I did kind of end up going top heavy in a way anyway, because I got 3 tier 2s, which were 90 points each, which does equal more than half of my budget. But I was okay with this because it was spread out among 3 instead of just being like one tier 1, Again, Newmon, Paradox, really strong. Electric Ground is a really, really good offensive typing. And then it provided me much needed special damage output because, Noivern is a special attacker, but, come on. Its 97 special attack is not the best. Its coverage is pretty lacking. It gets stabs. Granted, it gets good options for its stabs, like Discharge, T-Bolt, Volt Switch are very good. And then Power Gem and Flash Cannon, it's enough. It's not great, obviously, but it's enough. And then, again, move pool is pretty limited on this thing. I think Gravity is, and I guess Eerie Impulse is good, but I think Gravity is the most notable. Is it? Yeah, I would say Gravity is probably the most notable support move here, but Terrain's nice, Eerie Impulse is nice, Screech is nice. It's nice to have the options. So next up, I went straight into tier 6, and I took Basculin. This was another point where I was like, wow, the water types are disappearing. Like Vaporeon, Clawitzer, Quaquaval, I think maybe Rotom got taken a little bit later. I know those 3 were all on my list, and they just went like right after the other, and so I was like, crap, like what do I do now? So I went Basculin. This is not the form that can hold Eviolite, unfortunately. That mon is not in the game yet, but it gets a couple good abilities. Like Mold Breaker is useful. Reckless Head Smash, I guess if you want. Rockhead Head Smash as well and Wave Crash is not the worst. And then adaptability, I think, is really what makes this thing shine. You get adaptability Wave Crash and adaptability Aqua Jets, plus a couple decent coverage moves, and then Taunt is kind of your only relevant status move. But I just think it's a really good tier 6. 98 speed is good, especially when paired with Thunderwave, Grimmsnarl, or Tailwind. I think it's definitely like a 1-for-1 kind of trade mon. Like you get a Wave Crash off, and then you chip something. You get a Wave Crash off and kill something, ideally. And then if you're not Bandit or something, you just Aqua Jet to get some chip and then let yourself go down, and you've probably done enough. I think it's I think that's how Urshifu Rapid Strike used to function a lot in VGC, if I remember correctly. So it's kind of like that, but terrible. But yeah, again, the bulk is atrocious. It's not the worst, but it's pretty bad. But 92 attack with adaptability makes it a very high effective attack stat, and then the speed stat 98 is good enough. So yeah, again, I just felt like it functions in tier 6, and some of the things don't. So, and then I took another tier 6 right after, Stantler, for my 6th pick. I just felt like this was a super insane tier 6. The amount of utility this thing has, I don't know why the text all shifted to the left. That's my bad. But again, the stats are pretty middling, right? But 95 attack is usable. 85 speed is whatever. But Intimidate, Frisk, and Sap Sipper are all very good abilities. They all help it set Trick Room if that's what I want to do. But it kind of gives me this option of a soft TR mode. Very good Eviolite bulk. 73, 62, 65 is pretty darn good. So I was happy about that. But then, a couple good coverage moves. Probably just running body slam most of the time, but like side shield bash is cool. But then the status moves is where it really got another screens user. I think that's like my third. I think it's my third. I think Sandy Shocks also gets screens, but I didn't list it because I'm never running screens on that thing. But yeah, I mean Trick Room. But then screens, trick, thunderwave. Hypnosis is really good. Helping Hand in prison. Skill swap is also possibly useful. Scary faces, whatever. So yeah, I mean this mon is only doing it's doing a couple of things, but I think it does it consistently enough that it was worth the tier 6. So then next up, I needed a steel type, because at this point I had 2 fairy weaknesses in Grimmsnarl and Noivern, and I had one switch into which was Ceruledge, but I wanted something that would actually hit them. And what better than a mon that hits them and is 4 times resists them, Revavroom. So this was tier 4, so it cost me 40 points. Overcoat and Filter they're good abilities. They're not like insane, but they're useful. I needed a threat to fairy types, and then this can run really cool like versatile, fast or slow sets with like spin out or shift gear. But it also gets like really good like utility moves. This is my only haze user, and it's my only toxic user, so I wanted to get those because I think toxic is actually very good now. But another parting shot user, Magnet Rise is useful because it's 4 times weak to ground. But yeah, I mean there's not a whole lot to say on this mon. Like bulk is mediocre, attack stats good, speed is good enough. But yeah, I mean, it really I just needed something to hit steals, or not steals, fairies, and this did that. So I'm happy with it. So next up, I needed a ground switch in now, because I just drafted a 4 times weakness to it. So I took Go-Goat. Completes my Firewater Grass Core with Ceruledge and Basculin. But I mean, like the bulk on this thing is pretty good. 123, 62, 81 is very respectable bulk. It's kind of I think it's a really good bulk up user. Not as good as Ceruledge, so take that as you will. But I think Grimmsnarl also gets bulk up. That's funny. But yeah, I mean, again, it just gets a lot of good coverage. It can run physical or special sets pretty much equally because 100 versus 97 is not that different. But yeah, I mean, it gets Leech Seed, so it's got some stuff. But like for tier 5, I felt like I needed it. I think my options for tier 5 grass types at this point were like Lurantis, Go-Goat, Sunflora, and Leafeon, and I felt like Go-Goat was the best of those 4 for this team. I think Lurantis is fine, but I think Go-Goat is better here. So next up, I realized that I was going to have to take at least 2, or no, just 2 tier 7s, and so I was like, okay, I need to get these now so that there's still usable tier 7s left for me, And so I went with Zorua Hisui for my first one. It doesn't give me any new typings. I already have a normal type and I already have a ghost type. But I'm on this frail. It doesn't matter what typing it is, right? But Illusion on a mon with an immunity to 3 types, one of which is normal, which means it's immune to fake out, is so good. It's just like you just have to think about it. Anytime it comes in team preview, it's just like it kind of like makes people make plays to cover for it, and I think that's really good for a tier 7. Plus, it gets stuff like Icy Wind, which I think is really valuable. Knockoff, like the move pool is very, very usable. I think it's my only knockoff user, and maybe my only Icy Wind user as well. I could be wrong on that. But I think even Memento is pretty valuable on it. But yeah, I mean it's not that fast. It's not that strong. It's incredibly frail. But I just think that the mind games of it could prove very useful. So next up, I took Metatite as my second tier 7. I'm actually pretty high on this mon. Obviously, the bulk is trash, and The speed is very middling, but base 40 attack with pure power, in essence, is like it hits almost the same attack stat as Iron Hands, which is very crazy, like really crazy for a tier 7. And it gets really strong stabs like CC and high jump kick too. Um, and then the other thing is like I didn't have a fighting or a psychic type outside of this, so it was nice to just provide me some added coverage. But then it also gets stuff like taunt. I mean, I have a million taunt users, but imprison trick room could be viable, I guess. Skill swap pure power I think is very good. So that's definitely an option onto like onto Serial Ledger, Grimmsnarl, or whatever, right? And so I think that's really cool, a really cool option to have. But yeah, I mean, again, it's a tier 7. It's not going to come every week, but I feel like this is a mon, like, because of its damage output and the unique typings on my team, has, like, a very realistic niche. It also gets fake out, which is cool. Um, and finally, my last pick out of tier 5 was Glaceon. Um, this one was a really straightforward pick. I didn't have an ice type. I didn't want to draft another ground weakness, so I didn't go with like Cloth or Knackle Stack, which were on my list. So I was like, what, I'll grab an ice type. It doesn't really, it's not a huge defensive liability for me, and it gives me another way to hit ground types, which is nice. And I wanted it to be a special attacker, which is why I took this over like Avalugg or Crabominable. But I mean, it's very similar to last gen, except it got Calm Mind now, which I think is a very, very, very good buff to it. Despite its trash, defensive typing. And I don't remember if it got stored power last gen. I think all the evolutions got that this gen. So stored power is really good as well. But yeah, I mean, I think this mon is good value for the tier. It does its own thing, and it provided some coverage I didn't have. This one was pretty straightforward. And then, so yeah, my overall thoughts. Despite the overwhelming amount of snipes, I'm really happy with the team overall. Like, I think I got a lot of the stuff that I like to have personally. Like good tailwind, a couple of strong offensive pieces, as well as just like good low tier value, good fast mode, and yeah, I mean, I think that the speed tiers, I kind of wish I had drafted like one more thing over base 100, because I have Noivern at 123 and Sandy Shocks at 101, and then the next is like Basculin at 98. But it should be okay. Like Noivern is very good, and then Grimmsnarl with either Thunderwave speed control or just setting screens kind of mitigates the need for speed control sometimes, in my opinion. But yeah, I think that a potential weakness is that the damage output on my team is skewed very physically, but I do have like Sandy Shocks and like potential Boom Burst Noivern and Glaceon to kind of make up for that a little bit. Plus, Go-Go can kind of be special if it wants to. And then I think, I guess the last point, as noted here, I think, the TR could be a little bit of a problem for this team because I didn't draft anything super slow. But I have an Imprisoned Trick Room user with Stantler, which I think is actually pretty consistent at it. So I'm not super worried about it. I think with Grimmsnarl screens, I have the longevity to mitigate that Trick Room weakness and stall out Trick Room easily here. So, yeah, I'm super excited for this season. There's a lot of people in here I haven't gotten the opportunity to play against, so I'm super excited to play some new people and get some rematches on some homies like who have I played before in here? Wade and Dan. I've played them multiple times. I've played Otto a couple times. Pedons once. Case Knight Rider, I think I played him a long time ago. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of really good coaches in here. And yeah, that's about it. Thanks for watching, everyone. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.